of EFCC versus Bello, the former governor of Kogi State. So help us make sense of what is playing out in terms of the politics and the legalese, because I'm careful, is a subject under adjudication. There's a hearing today, there's another hearing tomorrow. So there's a fine line we can play around. But that's why I said, as a politician and as a lawyer, expansively and generically help us make sense of what is happening. We know the facts. We've been following the story.
Well, the politics of it is quite complicated. In fact, the more you see, the less you understand, because he's a member of the governing party. So if you say it is politics, how come it is the member of the governing party that is being investigated or attempt is made to prosecute him? Secondly, the alleged offense did not start after President Bwala became president. It was during Buhari. In fact, at that time, they were even making effort to arrest individuals in that government. So you have to extricate that from politics. But the legal aspects and the institutional effort point of view, a lot is to be unpacked. There are faults of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, quite frankly. And then there are things that you can say are the fault of Bello. For example, the fault of Bello, in my view, is that any attempt to evade arrest or face the law is in itself an offense. Even if you have an order of court that says you should not be arrested, prosecuted, or investigated, that this kind of orders usually are strange. But even if you have it, once the law enforcement are at the door of your house saying they have a warrant to arrest you or that you are invited, you are expected by law to go. The remedy you have is that if they are in contempt of court, your lawyers can file Form 49, which is the contempt proceedings. And if that contempt proceeding go through, that EFCC is in violation of the order that you receive, then the court can commit the chairman of EFCC to prison. And this is something that is visible, doable. I remember when Bwala was in power, there was a time court gave a contempt order for him to be remanded in prison. But I think they appeal against it. That is the way law and order works. But evading it will create a lot of problems. Now, this is the fault of EFCC. The fault of EFCC is that if there is a substantive order that somebody should not be arrested, prosecuted, or investigated, even if you think the order was obtained by fraud, you are supposed to obey that order or challenge the order. In this case, it is said that EFCC challenged it and that the date for the hearing of the matter hasn't come when they went to arrest him. That is wrong and we must say it. Secondly, when you went to his house, there are certain things to be pointed out as the problem of EFCC. One, there is the issue of interagency lack of cooperation, because the intricacies of intelligence and arrest is that when you identify a suspect and you track and trace a suspect to a location, you have to do your work before going to know whether when you go to perform the operation, you are likely going to be faced with resistance. If the suspect is a VIP, there is a presumption that you will have either police or SSS guarding him. So that means that as EFCC operatives, you are supposed to contact the heads of these two security platforms that you are going to carry out an operation based on the order of court. Please ask your main there not to resist our attempt to arrest or withdraw the main. And I doubt if EFCC did that, because if they had done that, the law enforcement that were protecting him will not have attempted to resist them. Secondly, when they came to the scene and immediately were resisted by that, there ought to have been a communication between the chairman and the other sister agency. For 3 hours, they were dramatizing this thing until a governor left Kogi and drove to Abuja. Now, under operation, there are operational rules in intelligence. There is what is called 25% rule, 25 minutes rule. 25 minutes rule is when you go to conduct operation. If in 25 minutes you are not able to do that, the operation itself is a failure. You are supposed to retreat. These people stayed for 3 hours. They know the media were there. So there was either an effort to dramatize it in order to impress anybody at large, or that it is a lack of skills that is required. When you appear at the venue, as there are commercial drones that people use, you are supposed to run the drones if you do have. If you don't, you are supposed to have it. The drone will go right to his house. You will be able to look at the circumference of his house. You will be able to tell whether the suspect is there, is not there. But you see that because of the lack of intel in that area, there is even a conversation that the governor was not there. The governor from Kogi didn't come and go. All of these things are disgraceful and embarrassing.
Well, Mr. Bwala, so this played out on Wednesday for hours, and you've given some analysis of that. This is Monday, almost a week after, 5 days after that, and well, we've not seen any much changes. He's not been taken into custody. The EFCC, by the way, the appeal is meant to be heard today for EFCC trying to vacate that particular court order restraining it from arresting the former governor. It's meant to be heard today. That's the 22nd. But the point I'm trying to make now is nothing much has changed. It looks like both parties are still at loggerheads. And you've heard the EFCC say they might even call in the military if they need to apprehend the former governor. You said the politics is quite complicated. A lot of people seem to see the body language of the president through what is playing out now. But my own concern is, how should this end?
You see, that's why I use the word, the whole thing is disgraceful, because number one, it is a reckless statement for EFCC to say they will call in the military to arrest a civilian. Now, two, they don't have the power to call the military. There's only one person that has power to call the military. He's called the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. He's the only one that can call the military. So that statement in itself is reckless. Three, is it not embarrassing that a private citizen will be having a loggerhead with a whole agency? What I tweeted that day was, I said, except if they are acting and they are doing simulation for a movie they are intending to produce, the whole thing is unnecessary. They are supposed to have intel about where he's whereabouts. He's protected by security. Okay, after that event yesterday, we learned that the securities were withdrawn from him. As at the last time when these security people were withdrawn, they ought to have reported to their respective commands of his whereabouts. Remember that both police and SSS, they have instruments for geo-tracking and geo-tracing. Three, they have already communicated with their sister agency, where now a, flight risk or whatever, watch list statement has been issued that wherever he is seen, he will be arrested. From all intents and purposes, he is believed to be in the country. I condemn the act of his lawyers who continue to misadvise him to evade the law, to dodge. This is the danger. If he keeps dodging and at the end of the day he's found and dragged to court, I find it difficult to see any judge that will grant him bail. Because one of the conditions for the grant of bail is that the person will not be a flight risk. But if you are already evading like that, just like in the case of Maina, the minute you are able to be dragged to the court, even if you have people that will stand as surety, it might be difficult for the court to grant you bail. This is the danger. Now, those who are misadvising him are saying he has an order of court. If you have an order, who enforces the order? You can't enforce the order. You will still require the law enforcement to enforce your own right. So, and you talked about the body language of the president. I think Mr. President is trying to allow institutions to do their work. He doesn't want to be involved in it. Otherwise, you can make the same case in Ondo to say, what is the body language of the president? What is he saying? He's trying to disprove the naysayers that he manipulates or he influences everything. And so he allowed the thing to play out. And the way it is being, the person who at this point was supposed to put his foot and do what is necessary is the Attorney General, who is the chief law officer of the country. From that minute that incident happened, that hour, the Attorney General ought to have issued a statement. He later issued it, but much more later or the next day. But from that hour, he should have issued that statement. And if EFCC wanted to conduct operation, they are supposed to let the Attorney General know so he can tell IG of Police and DG of SSS to speak to their respective commands to make sure that there is no resistance. We can't keep having this type of nonsense in Nigeria. We are low, details of VIPs, usually they are more motivated. So sometimes they get carried away by that empowerment and motivation to think as if they are above the law. They don't know that the reason they are with the VIPs is because in the first place, they are servants of the public. And this is the reason why this whole thing, the way it is going about. I think the chairman of EFCC needs to have an introspect on how that anti-corruption body should conduct its affairs. Otherwise, I fear that we'll come to a point where we'll have anti-corruption agency that will not be respected by anybody.
And you know, Mr. Bwala, from there we could even also talk about the role of the current Kogi governor in helping the former governor to evade arrest, whether or not it happened, because the state government is now contending that. But more importantly, let's look at the outlook of this, you know, the perception of the work of the anti-graft agency vis-a-vis lessons from the past. Some would say this is not the first time we're seeing this. The EFCC even went as far as, you know, former Imo governor in its attempt at prosecuting him. We could also talk about the former Ekiti State governor. And some would ask, where did all this lead? Some of these politicians are walking as free men. And so, what's the value in the work of this, the attempt at prosecuting the former Kogi governor? Is it leading anywhere?
Now, this is it. Now, there are people who will tell you that this whole thing is a drama. You know, it is drama and drama. But let me point out something, because a message, bad signal has already been sent by the conduct of the governor of Kogi. That section 308 immunity you are reading, that immunity is only conferred on the person of the governor. It does not confer immunity on his car, his house, or anywhere he goes. If an incumbent governor who enjoys section 308 tries to obstruct the course of justice, the use of reasonable force to resist him is permissible under the law. And he cannot go to court and claim that there is a violation of his fundamental right or there is a breach of section 308. Because the section 308 confers immunity only on his person, not his car, his house, or someone else's house. That has to be made clear, so that if a governor tries this incident later, and you hear a case of law enforcement manhandle him, he may not have a recourse in the court of law. That's one. Two, if you look at the EFCC and their modus operandi, that's why people when they accuse them, they say you only succeed in getting Yahoo people convicted and lately getting money mutilators convicted, but the high-profile individuals whom the institution was established in the first place to deal with, you are unable to do that. You go to case, you end up not winning. And then the political also influence with. In the case of Okorocha, let me give you an example. They applied the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, I think section 11 and 12, where it says when you go to conduct operation to arrest, if you are resisted, use every force necessary, including breaking of the house, in order to carry out that operation. So they used that in Okorocha. Why didn't they use it in the case of Bello? Assuming you're applying the law disproportionately. Now, that's one. But two, you shouldn't even come to that point where you will have to be breaking people's houses. When you invite a suspect and he fails to show up, that's when you will declare him wanted. When you declare him wanted, this is an institution that's working. When you declare him wanted, you now use your executive responsibility of contacting either the IG of police, Attorney General, the President, whoever is in that chain of command, that this is the decision of EFCC, this is what EFCC needs in order to be able to bring it to fruition. It will be done without all this Hollywood and Nollywood. But this idea of this drama, if it continues, it might get us to a point where there might be an exchange between the law enforcement that come to arrest and those who are protecting the VIPs, and then we see casualty. It does not portend well. And I'm sure wherever the president is seeing this, the president will quietly ensure that this thing does not happen again, because it does not portray the good image of democracy, the rule of law that we're talking about. EFCC must do thorough investigation and carry out their duties without attachments, so that politicians do not end up impeding on their character. When they apply the law, they should apply it disproportionately, like this naira mutilation or naira abuse. You see that kind of disproportionate application. if you want to do it, issue a statement. From today henceforth, anybody who is found to be abusing the Naira, A, B, and